Slacktail Squad, assemble.
Good evening. Guess who's back? Back again. I'm back. It's me, the Beaveman, and this is the Slaptail Squad. And with me this evening is the beautiful Swan.
Hello.
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 We were gonna have the Rons on the show, and I texted him earlier. I don't think Rons is very well aware of technology at all, despite all the shit he talks.
No. He thought it would be a good idea to podcast while driving down the road.
Yeah, and it looked like
Via
he was in
Bluetooth.
some sort of a shoe.
Yes.
Did you just notice that? They had like the sloped back, like a little rounded car. I don't think he was in his car.
Oh, I wasn't even paying attention to his car. I was paying attention that he was wearing his mask down around his face while
Well, he's
driving in his
driving.
car. I know.
Why does he doesn't need to wear the mask
I know.
while he's driving.
That's what I was saying. Why does he not take it off of his face?
Because it looked like it was a gator.
Oh, maybe. I thought it was just a mask.
You're not observant, like, at all.
I think it was
You
just a
didn't
mask.
notice, it didn't even dawn on you what kind of car he was in.
No.
And you said mask on. I'm pretty sure he had a gator on.
I don't know. We'll have to confirm that later. But
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what he's
feel
wearing.
like it was. I don't know. I wasn't paying that close of attention. I was seeing out of the corner of my eye from your side.
All I know is that for somebody who talks so much shit about being so good with technology, he does not seem to be good with technology whatsoever. Every time you text him, he gets back to you 3-4 hours later as if he just got the text.
He blames it on his cell phone service, but maybe it's user error.
I mean, what kind of cell phone service even if he was just getting it, isn't there like a timestamp on it from when you sent it, regardless of when he gets it?
I don't know. I don't know about that situation.
I don't know.
Because I'm not very tech savvy either.
I don't know. The point is, he decided that he was going to do the podcast while he was driving.
They could have at least switched and he could have passengered, not drove.
I don't know.
That would have made more sense. But
No, his rationale was that he could drive and Bluetooth and do the podcast at the same time and not be distracted. But I know the Rons in casual conversation, one-on-one, without any distractions around him, and he gets distracted. So
Right.
how on earth would I expect him to drive a car and not get distracted?
right, we don't want to be responsible for his flaming crash of death.
No, I definitely do not want to be responsible here for his flaming crash of death.
And even if the Ron's wife was back seat, sideways, passenger seat driving, that's not safe.
No.
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 No, Rons, you may not podcast while driving. Because rule number 1, you can't podcast while driving.
That is one of our rules. I don't know if that's rule number 1.
Okay, it's a rule. Maybe not number 1.
I think rule number 1 might be you're not supposed to podcast from the toilet.
Okay, that's a good rule.
That's a good rule. Also, you're not supposed to be actively pleasuring yourself while podcasting.
Yeah, that's always a good rule too.
And one of the other rules we have is that you should not be looking at porn while podcasting.
Doesn't that go with rule number 2?
No, not necessarily. People do look at porn without self-pleasuring themselves or
Okay.
pleasuring themselves. Self-pleasuring themselves is kind of redundant.
Okay.
What do you want to talk about today?
I don't know.
Have you ever thought about, this is kind of a stupid question because I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this. Well, I might not know the answer to this. Have you ever thought about being a stand-up comedian?
No.
That's good because you would be a horrible
I was going to say, I don't think I could even do that. Because, no, I couldn't do it. I'm not funny. And when I try to be funny, I'm probably not funny either.
No, you're not. Let's go to Fantasyland and say that you decided you were going to be a stand-up comedian.
Fart jokes.
That's what you would go with?
Yeah, I would go with toilet humor.
Why is that?
Because it's funny.
Like specific, what about is funny? Are you talking about the genre of toilet humor, or
Yeah.
you're just saying pretty much specifically related to bodily function humor?
Well, I mean, maybe both, but a lot of...
Because I think people consider toilet humor a genre. And
Okay,
it doesn't-
so more
you need-
like-
that doesn't mean you have to talk about farts.
No, openly the genre, but specifically the body function. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to have the fart book, and it had all the different farts, like, you know,
No,
the
I don't.
silent
Why
but
don't you tell
deadly.
that?
I don't even remember, but it was basically like the invisible one where it like leaves a shit stain, but it's a fart. The silent but deadly. That would be your Yeah.
You feel like that's gonna sustain you. You're gonna be able to
No.
hold.
I mean,
You're gonna be able to hold a crowd.
that is
with
why
your fart
I'm not a
jokes.
comedian. No, it probably won't. I mean, no, probably not. And then I'd be all fucked up if I didn't have that capture that audience. I'd be lost. I'd just stand up there and be like, "Well, this is funny to me.
That's what you do. You're like, that's funny to me. Fuck you guys. You don't understand comedy.
We're just gonna keep going."
You understand comedy.
Yeah. No, that's
Huh.
it. Okay. So
All right.
anyway, no
I just wondered.
toilet humor. Yeah.
Toilet humor,
hmm
which is considered, according to Skylar, that's one of the lowest forms of comedy. That's what he says.
But everybody can relate to it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible to do comedy without swearing, like Jerry Seinfeld?
I mean, probably, maybe. No, probably not. I mean, not for me anyway. I say the F word quite often.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to a podcast where I thought it was interesting because Mark Maron was interviewing Jerry Seinfeld. And for one, I don't know even ever how I feel about Jerry Seinfeld. Like, I
don't
think
like
he's funny.
him. I don't think he's funny.
But do I think he's the king of all comedy? No, I do not. I've never thought that.
I think it's like corny humor. Like, I don't know. It's not my sense of humor.
No, I mean, some of that stuff is funny. And I was wondering, you have to wonder about how his mind works, though. How did he write this stuff? Because the stuff he does write, you can relate to the stuff that he writes. Or the stuff
Yeah.
because when he talks about stupid stuff, like when you're in the grocery store and you've got that little stick that you put between your groceries, he did a whole bit on that, which was funny because most people can relate to that unless you're super rich and you don't do your shopping and you don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Well, he probably clearly then bases it off of experience.
Well, he was talking to Mark about how he wrote. He wrote all the time, and he would just pick something, and then he'd just sit down and write jokes about it. So if you saw road signs, he might sit down and then just methodically write jokes about road signs.
There's some funny road signs, like the ones that say speed hump. That one's pretty funny.
What the fuck? I'm not even talking about it anyway.
Well, I'm just
talking
going
about
I'm
comedy
just trying
writing
to be
in
comedy.
general.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about. Comedy writing in general. So, but back to this whole interview with him. It was a while ago. Verdict for me, I don't think he's the funniest. I don't think he's the funniest comedian I've ever heard. But he gets a lot of praise and a lot of worship. Not saying you're not funny, Jerry. I know because I know you listen to my podcast. But he's always come across to me as snooty.
Yeah.
And so if you he's not one of those people who would do toilet humor. And he's not somebody who swears in his act because he doesn't think that's funny or he doesn't think he can do it. It does not say that other people couldn't do it.
No, okay.
But he doesn't do it because he doesn't think it's funny. However, I think of it as an expletive, and I don't really know how I could do comedy without swearing. Or if I didn't swear.
What words would you put in its place?
Well, that's the thing. You're still saying the same thing. So even if I said fudge instead of fuck, you know what I meant.
So what does
so
he
what
do
difference
for
does
that?
it make if you say? But yeah, but he doesn't do that. You've listened to you've seen his
but
comedy.
so
He doesn't enter that realm where it would be that he's using a word in place of another word. If you use a word in place of another word, you're basically still swearing. You're still doing the same thing.
Right.
So he doesn't do that.
So how does he transition to stuff? I mean, fuck is an adjective, a verb, a noun,
Have
an
you
action.
not heard his comedy?
I do, but I just don't. I don't know. I feel like it comes across as a normal part of language for me.
Well, yeah, it does come apart as a normal part of language for you, but it might not for everybody else.
Okay, fine. Then he is snooty because he was raised without the use of the F word.
Well, that doesn't mean that he was raised without the use of that. That doesn't make any sense. I was raised without the use of the F word, and I use it.
Well, you're just making up for lost time. All your unused.
I don't even know why I'm
F-words
saying the
from
F
child.
word right now. That's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, just use the whole F word.
I remember when I finished airborne school, and I was in Georgia, and my parents came down for my airborne graduation. So that means they got to see, I think they saw might have been my last two jumps. For sure one of them. I can't remember if it was last two or just one.
Okay.
And then, we got all of our stuff, we graduated, and we went home. It had to have been our last jump. And we headed home. And my friend that I was in airborne school with, that we went in the Army at the same time. I didn't really know him per se. We just happened to join the same day. He's from Portage, down the road. And my parents agreed, hey, we'll just take him. He'll go, we'll take him home with us.
Wow, that's kind of amazing.
Well, we both had leave. So you get leave
Right,
afterwards,
yeah.
and so you're in between your duty station. And we got our orders, and he was going to go to Panama, and I was going to go to Germany. And so they're like, okay, yeah, we'll just take him home. So we're in the back seat, we're driving along, and I can see my mom and I can see my dad's like reflection in the rear view mirror because I'm in the back seat, and I can see myself also. And I said "fuck" about something. We were just in casual conversation. And then I could see my dad's face, like the look of horror and shock, and my mother, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot that."
You don't say those words.
Well, my parents
and
don't
they're not
swear
used
at
to
all.
hearing you
I don't
say
think
them.
I've only ever heard my mom swear maybe a couple times.
Was she really mad?
No, I mean just it was more of an in casual my mom doesn't swear when she gets mad. She just gets mad. She says, and it was just like in casual conversation where she made reference to somebody saying like bitch, and she was kind of laughing about it when we were talking about it. And that's only a couple times. My father, I heard him swear one time my whole life, and it was within the past 10 years, and I can't even remember what he said. I don't know how you could live your whole life not swearing.
I know. The daughter even says swear words.
Well, I mean, how else do you express yourself? It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel good.
Oh, golly gee.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel,
No.
I think it's a natural human response, and it just feels like you're releasing something that needs to be released. If you don't say it, I mean, you're just bottling it up inside, and you're thinking it anyway.
Yeah, that's why nuns swear all the fucking time.
What?
Haven't you ever taken care of nuns? Like, they're horrible. They say bad words like pussy and swear and fuck all the time. Yeah.
I have not had a nun say that to me.
I have.
I have not.
I will tell you the most funny nun story I had.
Please tell me the most funny nun story ever. Go ahead.
So this nun, I was working in critical care, and she was intubated for the longest time. She had a trach, and
Okay, you gotta explain this stuff.
Okay,
not like you're explaining it to me, because I know what you're talking about. You have to explain it like somebody who doesn't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Okay, non-medical people. She was intubated, which means has a breathing tube down to help her breathe. They put a trach in her so that she could breathe for a long period of time. They don't know what a trach is. I'm getting there. It's a tube in your neck, so therefore they can take the tube out of your mouth, so you can move your mouth and do oral care and all that stuff to keep your esophagus good, whatever, your teeth good. So she has this trach in, and so she's trying to communicate. She's mouthing words to me, and she kept mouthing and mouthing and mouthing, and I kept trying to see what she had, and she kept. They always say the first thing they say is water, because everybody wants water because they're not allowed to eat or drink anything. So I'm thinking she's saying water, and it's over and over again, and water. So finally she gets to where she can put the button on her trach, which means it's occluded off so that she can talk.
Wow, occluded, because could you just
closed so that she can speak. So giving her voice back. The first thing she says to me, and I was thinking it was water the whole time as she's mouthing it, she says, "My twat hurts." I'm like, what the fuck? This nun kept saying, and I'm like, what? She says, "Yes, my twat hurts."
I can see how that would look like water.
Water, yes. I was like,
for the listening audience, try it right now. As you're listening to this on a podcast, think about it right now. From across the room, say that to somebody. Just mouth, "My twat hurts."
And then mouth water. Do it in a mirror if you want to, but it looks pretty much the same. I kept saying,
why do they need to?
So they can see it. So they can.
I want them to do it to somebody else to see what they think they're saying.
Oh, okay.
That's what I just said.
I was not following.
From across the room, do it to somebody else.
I was concentrating on my next part of my story. So anyway.
Yeah, see, because you weren't listening to what I was saying.
I wasn't, exactly. Shut the fuck up and let me tell my story before I get distracted and have to start all over again. So anyway, she says, "My twat hurts," and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, I was thinking she said water. I'm like, oh, she don't want water. And I was like what? Like, you have a catheter in, like, which goes into your urethra to help you pee for you unmedical people.
If they know, in case no one knows what urethra is.
Pee hole, your pee hole.
There you go.
Okay. And she's like, no. I said, is it something with your catheter? No. I'm like, okay, your twat hurts. Okay. Like what? Like I've been fucking too much. And I'm like, whoa, she's a nun. So my twat hurts and like she's been fucking too much. Okay, so clearly
she's been getting a Roman Catholic cock. I'm getting a big priest cock.
Yep. So anyway, they're holding it all in for all those years, all those bad swear words, and they're gonna come out somewhere.
In critical care.
In critical care. Yep. Anyway, that's my story.
So when are you gonna tell the funny story?
That was funny.
That was a funny story?
That was funny.
Okay.
Just think about it. For like a month.
The only thing that my takeaway from that is that everybody should say, "Mouth, my twat hurts," to
see what
somebody
happens.
and see if they understand what you're saying.
Yeah. For like a week, I thought she was asking for water, and it was my twat hurts. I could have helped her twat like a week earlier had I known what she was saying.
How are you going to help her twat?
I don't know.
Like a week earlier.
Like maybe
like,
she had a yeast infection or something. I don't know.
She's like, an entire week went by of this poor lady's twat hurting, and I could have helped her in some way. And then I ask you,
At least
how
I
would
should
you have
cared.
helped her?
At least I should have cared. I would have known she was. I don't know.
Well, as your job as a nurse, you would report this
Right.
twat discomfort.
Correct.
So as you report this twat discomfort to the physician,
Right.
what was their plan to assist this nun with her twat pain?
I don't remember. I just thought it was funny.
So did you even report that
Yes,
she had
I
twat
did.
pain?
I did. Yes. I didn't call it twat pain, but
No.
no. I said vagina.
Okay.
But anyway. But then I did tell that story in the break room about how, she said her twat hurt, and I thought it was water forever, and then...
Now, was it possible, because you were working at an old Catholic hospital, is it possible that this nun was fucking too much with, like, some sort of ghost?
Maybe. Could have.
There are people that believe that ghosts come and bang people or have sex with people, and which is bizarre. I had a patient ask me about that, incidentally.
Yeah. What did they say? Did they think they were being fucked by ghosts?
Yes, they did. Actually.
Were they mentally stable?
No, they were not.
Okay, then.
They were not.
I also have some of those stories,
But the problem
too,
is, the problem is with people who have schizoaffective disorder or schizophrenia, is that they can have a conversation with you, pretty much a normal conversation, a lucid conversation, in a conversational tone, and say just off the wall shit to you, as if it's a normal conversation.
Right.
And that was kind of the conversation, was, we're having a kind of a normal conversation, and then she says to me, do you think it's possible to have intercourse with a ghost? To which I responded, not bloody likely. Well, I didn't say not bloody likely. I just said, I don't believe that would be possible. No. But in my head, I'm like, well, of course, why not? I mean, what do I know? Who am I? Who am I? Am I an expert about the paranormal? Am I an expert about anything? But one of the things you cannot say to a schizophrenic person is, maybe.
Oh yeah, no, they're gonna dissect the shit out of that one.
You don't want them to do a deep dive into the statement that you just made. So what you have to do is, of course, dig a little deeper into what it is they're feeling and what's going on with them, why they would even ask that question. And of course, the reason why she asked that question was because she believed that she herself was indeed having intercourse with a ghost at night.
Okay, so here's a twisted part. Maybe the schizophrenic people really have a better sense of the paranormal shit, and maybe they're not as crazy as we think they are. That's kind of scary.
Well, it is kind of scary if you want to think of it that way, but I'm going to say that's probably not accurate.
I feel that's probably not accurate as well, but that does make you think, like, why do they all have a common, or, well, not all, a lot of times have a common theme of things like that? Like, ghosts are watching them, or people are watching them, or looking for them, or etc. Like, maybe it's just because it's a sense of paranoia.
Yeah, I
don't
so.
know.
Yeah, I'm not a psychiatric person, but no, they do all have a paranoia. That's part of schizophrenia.
Those are things to be paranoid
That is a
of.
criteria
I guess,
to be schizophrenic, is to have paranoia.
Right.
Stare at. It's
People
not
are
uncommon
looking
for
at
a
you.
schizophrenic patient to be doing, talking with a schizophrenic patient, and they're staring at something intently off, and you look and see what they're looking at, and there's nothing there, or they get up and look at something, and you're like, what's going on? That schizophrenia, that is the criteria for schizophrenia, is that they must have some paranoia, paranoid thoughts, paranoid,
Like
maybe
delusions
auditory hallucinations are very common. That means people hear things that aren't there. I don't know. Anyway, my point was, what type of comedy do you think you would do? And that's how that whole conversation got started.
So what comedy would you do?
I think that you have to do comedy about stuff that you kind of understand. So obviously making fun of your family, that's a big one.
Right.
I mean, you can make fun of your parents all day long. That's pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
I think that you would like to think that if your children were comedians, they wouldn't make fun of you a lot.
Oh, but they would.
You try to think about the things that you're like, well, do they have material? Have I given them material to make fun of me, to actually make some sort of a stand-up career because of me? I would like to think that I haven't. But you can spin any story to make your parents look ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, I know for sure that my parents were not great parents, and I could talk about them quite a bit and make it funny if I was a good writer, which I'm not. I would also be not be a good stand-up comedian. I would like to try it sometime, just once, just do like a 3-minute whatever.
I feel like 3 minutes is a really long time. It doesn't seem like it's a long time, but that's a lot of time to get up there and try to be funny.
Yeah, I think initially you probably get like a minute and a half or something, and then it goes from there to there. You know,
it's based on your funniest.
I just think it's amazing that good comedians, obviously the professional comedians, have bits for like a minute and a half, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, whatever. They've just got, in case they get a slot, in case they're doing something, they're like, oh, we need 3 minutes, and they can go do 3 minutes and just be awesome at it. I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think it's amazing that they don't get off track and like it all circles back around to like the original line. Like a lot of them do that. Mm-hmm. Like some of them.
Oh, Dave Chappelle's awesome.
Yeah, and it'll all tie back to the original joke.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, I think there's different types of comedy, like long form comedy and blah blah blah. And some people just do a continuous, constant frame of jokes, or they've got that stuff that's kind of contemplative or contemplative.
Uh-huh.
Like Mark Maron, he does it. His is like a story, kind of a story, where you have to think and stuff. Which I think is kind of amazing that he could do that if he had a really large crowd, because it seems like he would lose people a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I would love to see him in a small venue. I think that would be really good.
Do you think that they have what if it starts out and it's going bad? Do they have an alternate routine?
No, I don't think so. I think the good comedians don't. I think that they don't. It's not that they don't care if it's going bad or their perception that it's going bad. It's that they're going to do their material and not play to the crowd.
Okay. Yeah.
Because that's how they work their shit out. In other words, if they're doing a routine for this small group, they know that there's stuff that isn't going to work. So they're doing their stuff and building their art. Like, oh, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? And that's how they hone their craft.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's the fun part of listening to Mark Maron's podcast, because he's a professional comedian. So you get to hear all these, and he interviews obviously a lot of comedians, actors, etc. But he talks about how he's evolved and how comedians evolve. And they all say the same. They talk about their style and how their style works. Which, like I said, is when he interviewed, going right back to this whole Jerry Seinfeld interview, is that I was actually kind of surprised that he interviewed Jerry Seinfeld. Not because, of course, if you had the opportunity to interview Jerry Seinfeld, I think most people would do it.
Right, because he's well known and is part of making comedy.
Yeah, and people want to hear your interview with him.
Okay.
But if I had to pick, would I think Jerry Seinfeld and Mark Maron would be good buddies? I would say no. So actually, when I first started to listen to the interview, I was like, I wonder how well this is going to go, because they're so, in my opinion, they're totally different.
But maybe they have a good respect for, well, at least Mark Maron does, for Jerry Seinfeld as part of the founder of art, comedy, whatever, or one of the
for his
predecessors of comedy.
He's one of the
comedy for him.
Obviously, probably the most well-known comedian, at least of his of Jerry Seinfeld's generation.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm sure he has tons of respect for him. I was wondering the whole time, how well is this going to go, after hearing Mark interview everybody and knowing obviously I don't know him, but his thought process, I can kind of see where he's going with stuff. And he does, it's not like he's very pessimistic.
Mm-hmm.
So he's totally the glass half empty person, which is part of his comedy. Also, his comedy's a little bit on the darker side. It's not like upbeat, happy comedy.
No,
like
he
Jerry's
talks about all of his bad experiences
in
life.
Like Jerry Seinfeld is pretty positive.
So maybe they did I would say that would be a good combo. They played off each other.
It was a good interview.
Yeah.
It was a really good. But like I said, it was like watching an episode of The Office, where you're always wondering what Michael's going to do, and it's all really cringy.
Right, yeah.
It was kind of like that, because I was waiting for
the cringiness to come
I was waiting for Mark to ask him a question or say something about how he views life, and waiting for Jerry just to belittle him for being so negative or something like that.
But he probably didn't, because that's not his thing. Or did he?
No, but he's kind of subtly, in my opinion, and I like Jerry Seinfeld, but and he's never going to fucking hear this, so it doesn't really matter. In my opinion, he's kind of a subtle asshole. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who has that opinion of him.
Right, yeah.
And I don't even know why I give a fuck if I'm insulting him or not. Honestly, I don't, because who gives a fuck?
He's getting free publicity about
you're getting
this anyway,
as
so
if
who cares?
he needs it. He's a freaking damn near a billionaire, I'm sure.
Okay, but one more like is good.
Yeah, I just would never. I don't rank him at all, and which is, maybe it's silly for me to say, but he's not my type of comedian.
I don't rank him that way either.
No,
I don't
Dave
think
Chappelle,
he's funny.
that motherfucker's hilarious. Like, that's my type of comedian. Dave Chappelle,
Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, Eddie Murphy, Robin Williams back in the day. That's my, George Carlin. Those people were fucking funny. That's my kind of comedy.
They're like toilet humor and raunchy. Not toilet humor, but like
George
raunchy.
Carlin is not toilet humor. George Carlin his shit was smart.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Eddie Murphy and Robin Williams, I don't know. Again, toilet humor, your definition of it, mine is probably a little bit different.
Not really toilet humor, I guess, but more like not really
or realistic how people talk.
Yeah, and saying the F word and dropping F bombs and
talking about sex and
shit
fucking
and
boobs and
yeah,
that sort of thing. But no, but at the same time, that doesn't mean I don't like the other stuff. There's plenty of people out now that I like that aren't like that. But I'm just talking about ranking comedian wise, and thinking about what type of comedy I would do if I ever had the opportunity is totally different. But again, you have to think about, this is what I'm sure regular comedians don't think about too much, is what would you say that you would think that your family wouldn't be offended by, or that you would be embarrassed to say in front of your children?
I feel like they don't think about that stuff because they know it's like a show and it's based upon real life events but taken out of context or embellished to be funny. So do they really care if they offend grandma when they talk about whatever? Mm-hmm. Probably not. And you think grandma's really going to listen? Probably not. And maybe if grandma does go into that show, he might not use that bit.
Yeah, well, I suppose there are some comedians that are not anything like their actual performance that they do. But I don't know if you would be a good comedian if it was just a persona.
I feel like they take stuff and they like add it and definitely embellish it. And I mean,
well, I'm not saying that you tell the exact amount of truth when you're a comedian. Not everybody makes up everything they do. Not everybody just writes jokes. What I'm saying is, I don't know if the comedian is the person or if it's a persona. That's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is, I don't know how you would be a good comedian if you were not the person that's up on stage, unless you're a sketch comedian. Then obviously it's a persona and you switch from person to person anyway. It doesn't matter. But the majority of the time, obviously, I think most comedians, that's who they actually are when they're doing their stuff.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of comedians are depressed.
Oh, of course they are.
They talk about their fat rolls and their bad sex and their lack of sex and their, horrible whatever. So.
Well, no, that's why a lot of people can relate to what they're saying, because most people feel that way anyway. If you don't have a good, healthy hate for yoalf, what kind of a human being are you if you don't have a healthy dose of hate for your own self?
I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
I'm just saying that the people that don't have this that's one thing that annoys me about people, is because I know there are lots of people.
Oh,
maybe I'm actually the exception.
I know where you're going with
maybe
this.
I'm actually the exception. Maybe I'm the one that, maybe I hate myself too much, and the hatred that I have for myself needs to be shared with a lot of people out there who clearly don't have enough hate for themselves. Because I don't understand that concept.
I don't understand how people are happy all the time. Like the ones that are like, "How are you doing today? Oh, it's such a great day."
No,
and
those people are 5 minutes away from blowing their own brains out.
Oh, you would think so, but
no, I think that is true.
Do you think that's true?
Yes.
Because they're
5 minutes away from me blowing their brains out.
At least two that I can know of at work that I've never seen them have a bad day. Like, I've never seen them show it anyway. They're so good. Like, "How are you doing today?"
Yeah, they're over medicated. They're the most phony liars on the planet.
Okay, I can go with that, but I've never, every single time, it's like happy, sunshines, roses, butterflies, fucking, you could tell them their dog died and be like, "Oh, it's such a great day. At least it was sunny out." And I'm like, "Oh, fuck you,
maybe they're just walking around with a silver bullet in their cooch.
Maybe.
Or a butt plug.
Maybe.
Maybe. Or they've got that underwear that stimulates the twat at all times
Maybe.
that they can remotely control.
Maybe they're onto something.
Yeah, maybe you need that.
I do.
You probably do. Now, where was I
Anyways.
going with that? Anyway,
I
no,
don't know.
those people. I feel like there are not too many truly extremely happy people like that in this country.
They're the people that get up and look in the mirror and they're like, I'm good enough. I'm smart enough.
Yeah,
And
you just
doggone it,
yeah.
people like me.
Yeah, probably
I'm like,
the happiest person is probably like the Dalai Lama, and that's about it. You know, I don't think there's a lot of happy people in this United States unless it's fake. They're 5 minutes away from blowing their brains out, or they're heavily medicated.
Okay, yeah. I mean, because I've seen tons of like golden spoon rich people who are not happy.
Well, it's
And
silver
you-
spoon. The phrase
whatever.
is silver spoon.
I just coined a new one. Golden
just
spoon
coined
is
it?
better
Just
than
coined a new
silver.
one?
It's gold.
Gold's better than silver.
Yeah. But anyway, they're not happy. They have everything they could have possibly imagined or want, and they're not happy.
Well, clearly not. Look how many of them kill themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, just as many rich people as poor people kill themselves. I'm sure that statistic cannot be backed up by anything. You know,
We
this
just made
isn't
that
an
up.
idiot podcast. I just made that up. But obviously, there's plenty of rich people that kill themselves
Right.
for
Whatever reason.
whatever reason. Who knows? You're the most successful. Robin Williams, clearly one of the most successful comedians of our time.
Well liked.
Well
Seemed
liked,
like he had his shit fairly together, I would think. I mean,
obviously, but
nope.
years, decades of depression.
That's sad.
Decades.
And died trying to make other people happy. That's sad. That is horribly sad.
It is horribly sad.
So,
Yeah. Back to my other Mark Maron, your podcast, which I shout out to. I listen to you all the time. He was also saying, and I didn't realize it, but looking back, I guess it makes a lot of sense. And I'm gonna have to start listening to his comedy because I've always loved him. But I don't have like comedy albums. I don't own any comedy albums. But apparently, you can watch a lot of it on YouTube, like the old stuff. But he was saying, and he was talking with he's talked with a couple of comedians who talked with him about it also, that Rodney Dangerfield was apparently majorly depressed, like his entire career.
yeah, I guess you could probably see that somewhat, maybe. But he acted happy and funny, but maybe that's just a cover for...
But did he though? He was funny and acted happy, but he was self-deprecating. His comedy was nothing but making fun of himself for saying, I have no respect and all that other stuff.
Yeah, so maybe that's people's cries for help, unfortunately, and nobody listens. They think it's funny.
Yeah.
That's sad.
I won't say that. I can't say that they said that he was depressed. What they said was he just kind of obviously beat himself up for decades and never... I will say, too, I agree with... I don't think he ever really got kind of the recognition that he truly deserved because he was fucking funny as hell. But a lot of those comedians, comedy is relatively new if you really think about it.
Well, I mean,
not new, but I mean, comedy as a profession is relatively new.
Well, I mean, look at like Chris Farley and all them. He made fun of himself and was self-deprecating and like, don't you think he was depressed? Probably.
Well, of course he was depressed.
I mean,
I'm sure that's why he was
you don't-
always on drugs and
Right.
everything. Yeah. Well,
So-
a lot of them have addiction problems, and I'm generalizing. Clearly, a lot of them have problems with addiction and substance abuse.
I feel like a lot of people in general do, not just comedians, but
No,
probably
yeah, a
that
lot of people
genre.
in general do. Sure, yeah.
So,
No, I think a lot of comedians are depressed. I did an entire podcast about how they're clearly the most depressed people. But again, you talk about things that people relate to. If you talked about how fucking happy you were all the time,
People wouldn't believe you.
Might not. Yeah. Well, people wouldn't believe you. You might not be that good. You might not be that good of a comedian.
no.
No, but if I was going to do comedy, that's what I would do. One of the things I would do. But I would also have to talk about, relate it to my profession and my hate and disdain for it and dealing with people in general. But I've listened to comedians there's a comedian that I listen to, I can't remember his name. So, who's a doctor. Who's a doctor. He's not that funny. No offense. Nobody's going to know who I'm talking about anyway. But his comedy's a little but you can see it's comedy from a doctor's perspective in dealing with a patient.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I don't know how long he did it, or if he's still doing it, or if he's still a comedian, but I feel like my comedy would be much better than his because he's a little too optimistic. Like, I would not be that way, because I'm so jaded after all these years that I think that one of the good things currently is that I have to wear a mask.
Yeah, it hides facial expressions
It hides
pretty
all
well.
my just disdain and I don't have to.
You can say what the fuck under your breath in it and nobody even sees your facial expression.
Yeah. I mean, really, if I could wear some sort of mask over my eyes also, that would just be fantastic because, then they wouldn't be able to see any of my eye expressions either.
Yeah, I don't think I have very good eye expressions or facial expressions, but I was just talking about that the other day with masks. Like, I passed this one girl who's a clerk all the time, and you can tell she's smiling under her mask. Like, I'm like, you always look so happy, even wearing that mask. Like, because her eyes tell it. But I don't think I look that way. I look the same.
Yeah, I've got pretty much a blank expression. So I would think that most people, what I've become is what I didn't think I would become. I've become that grumpy doctor that's just all business, which is what I am now. I at this point in my life and my career, I see no point in anything other than that.
People want that anyway, it seems like. They're perfectly fine with that, which is sad because you kind of want your doctor or nurse or whatever to care and have a general caring for you, but they really don't. They just want their
it's an
medication, diagnosis, work note, etc. And
well, even the people who
it's a
act like they
thankless-
care really don't.
Yeah.
I mean, the majority of them don't. I mean, I honestly did, and I thought that was pretty obvious. But at this point in my career, I don't.
And people are ungrateful whether you care or not, so it
That is
doesn't really
true.
matter whether you care or not.
Yeah, I mean, it takes so many times of just being stomped all over that you're like, this person doesn't give a shit about me. So I'm going to do what should be done in the first place. Is it's a business.
Yep.
It's a business with a high risk factor, just like anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm just professional and do my job, what difference does it make if I'm chummy or not?
Yeah, it's not like you're getting tips.
Yeah, I'm not getting, I don't get to rate them as a shitty patient, so why should they be able to rate me and say, oh, he doesn't act like friendly or whatever? Is that part of my job description? Do I need to do that? Or can I just do my job and make sure you have the proper care that you're supposed to have? I mean, you can have great care. I'll use this as an example. There's a doctor that I used to know. I'm sure he's not listening to this podcast, but I'm still not going to say his name. Just a complete dick. Just a complete dick. And some patients that I've met over the years kind of like him. But most of them also think he's a dick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But I've probably never met a patient or nurse, doctor, whatever, that didn't think that he was good at his job. Everybody thought he was great at his job.
I totally know who you're talking about.
But patients, staff think he's a dick.
Mm-hmm.
Think he's an arrogant asshole.
But he was very meticulous and
But
had
he's
a
awesome.
great outcome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he's awesome.
So-
And I've recommended him to lots of people. He might be retired by now. I don't know shit, but I've always recommended it. And I've always said to people, I'm like,
That's
he's
who you
an
should go
awesome
to.
doctor.
Yep.
I'm like, don't be expecting him to be asking you what you did this weekend and how you doing, blah, blah, blah. Some people kind of find him a little bit arrogant, but he's an amazing doctor. And after I got to know him a little bit, and interactions with him that I had when I was a trauma nurse, I fucking hated the guy. I'm
Yeah,
like,
well,
this guy's a
I
fucking
liked
dick.
him. He was meticulous. If you did everything the way he wanted and expected, you got along great.
Well, what I didn't realize, it took me a little while to realize it, and it was after he was my doctor, but I didn't realize it until after he was my doctor, is that if you gave him shit back, he shut up.
Uh-huh.
So it was one of those things where he was all bluff and gruff until you said something to him. He's like, man, I better shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Which is what he usually did. And then you would get chummy. Then that was kind of... So it was kind of a... I don't know if he did it to protect himself or if he just felt like he wanted to be arrogant until
A
somebody told
power
him to...
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was...
Yeah, we had a discussion over the size 8.5 gloves that he wanted, the whatever brand, and he wanted me to go down to sterile processing, wherever you got gloves from, and
How do
get
you
the
know who I'm
brand.
talking
Because I know exactly who you're
okay.
talking about.
Right.
Wanted me to go get them. I'm like, dude, we have size 8.5 gloves right here. They're sterile. It's just not the brand you like, and I can't get them at this time. It's fucking midnight. You're going to not do your job because you don't have the princess gloves you want, and he just shut the fuck up, put the gloves on, and we did it.
Yeah.
And he was like, cool.
But the other thing is, if you would have had the time, you probably wouldn't have went and got them.
I would have. But
because
I mean,
you're like, you know what? I'll go get them for him if it makes him happy.
yeah, exactly.
If he was a complete dickhead, then you're like, no, fuck that. I'm not doing that.
But he wasn't going to do it. And he was like, because I don't have my size 8, blah, 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 sterile gloves. I'm like, they're still sterile gloves. They're just not your freaking green ones that you like.
Yeah. Well,
sorry.
At least somebody gave a shit. Nobody ever gives a shit and tries to get me what I need.
Right? You can't even get a mask.
I can't even get a fucking mask. If there's any listeners out there and the members of the Slaptail Nation, my army, if you want to send me a N95 mask, that'd be nice because apparently no one gives a fuck enough to get me one where I work. But thank you to the good people who have donated me some. Good person who has. Otherwise, I wouldn't have one.
Yeah. Sad that you can't get your job as or can't get your supplies you need for your job as a medical professional.
Yeah, but you can always send me an email at slaptailsquad@gmail.com and say, hey, Beaveman, if you want, we can send you some masks. That would be fucking awesome.
That'd be great.
Because clearly nobody cares. Clearly, nobody cares if I get sick or not, or bring any type of sickness home to my family, but I've been protecting myself the whole time. One of the things, speaking of this doctor who was a comedian, one of the things I think that would be really funny, and I'm pretty sure that if I actually sat down and took a page from the book of Jerry Seinfeld and actually sat down and wrote jokes, I think that I could write quite a long bit about pain in general. And the response to pain that people have and their complaint of pain and how they report pain. I think that would be a super easy one to do.
Yeah.
It kind of goes in life cycles. Have you noticed that?
Mm-hmm.
Pain?
Yeah.
Little children can be in what one would perceive as pretty bad pain, and they're like, oh, it's fine, until they start getting warped ideals from their parents who tell them like, oh no, it's bad.
Like, I have an example for that. I had a kid who had a broken arm.
I didn't ask for it. Did I ask you for an example?
No, but I could give one. The
fine.
kid's arm was hanging. I mean, he had clearly broke both bones in his arm. They had it kind of splinted with like a t-shirt, and he was holding it. And I'm like showing him his pain, smiley face thing. And he points at like the middle, like, 5. I'm like, okay, your arm is hanging there. And he's like, yeah, it's okay. I think it's like right here. It's not like the super sad one because that's like the angry, mad, sad face. 10, like 5, 6. Mm-hmm. He's got a broken arm. And then,
well, technically, once it's broken,
it doesn't hurt that much. It doesn't
really hurt that much. It's
but
the strain of that is the principle, basically, if you think about it, of why jiu-jitsu works.
It hurts until it breaks.
Right. So you try not to. You're not trying to break it.
You're just hurting.
Because if I break your arm, then you're like, fuck it. It's broken. He already broke it.
Right.
I'm going to keep coming at him. But if I put it in the stress where the threat of breaking it there and the pain is continuous.
Oh, that makes me want to throw up.
Without breaking it.
Yeah.
Then I can control you a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
But if I break it.
It's done.
It's done. It's just flopping there and you're like, fuck, it doesn't. It's going to hurt later, but it don't hurt right now. I'm going to keep coming at you. Till I grab something else and unless you're like the the Black Knight and Monty Python where I'm cutting off limbs and you still keep coming at me. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
But
no, kids are super honest about their pain.
Well,
like,
but their
until
parents
they get warped.
Well, until their parents tell them, "No, oh my God, it's awful and it's horrible." I'm like, no. If the kid is telling me, it's okay for them to say, and I hate that. That's what it is. It's this warped perception. It's them manifesting their own issue onto their child.
Right.
It's the same thing when people let their kid run around and their kid falls down, they overreact and the kid cries. If the kid falls down and they look at you and you smile at them, they laugh. But if you act like it's the end of the fucking world, they cry because they feed off your stupid response.
Right.
That's why we have so many fucking snowflakes.
Yep.
But again, if you've like I said, it seems like it's timeline specific. So if you kind of grew up being a bit of a pussy, you're going to stay a fucking pussy, and then till you get like really old, and by then you're like, either one of things happen. Either you're going to stay a fucking pussy till you die, or you're going to get to a point where like, oh, this is just whatever, doesn't matter. But I see a lot of that too with really elderly people who you could do some studies on and see that, they come in for this minor complaint, you do some studies on them, and it looks like they've got some really bad shit going on, like a really bad back, where their nerves are being pinched because they've got degenerative, their erosion of their spine, basically, and it's pushing on those nerves, which are the things that give us pain, and they're like, yeah, what are you going to do?
Yeah, that's like my grandma. She has back pain, but you won't hear her talking about it. She's had compression fractures and all that, but my back hurts a little. Well, I guess you're 95. It should hurt a little, but yeah. But you will never hear her complain about it.
No, it's a learned behavior. It's a pathetic. It's pathetic.
How much attention you can get from it. It feeds upon it.
And it's also this perception of any pain is bad pain. It's this perception also that you can't be in pain. You have to have no pain.
Yeah.
And not only do you have to have no pain, you have to feel great.
Yeah.
Which is what the opioid does in the brain. Like, oh, your pain's not gone.
But
you
you
just
don't
perceive it as
care.
being gone. But not only do you perceive it as being gone, but I'm even going to make you feel better than when you have no pain at all and you're just a normal person. I'm going to make you feel like
Euphoric.
I should be like this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, again, why that's bad. Yeah, who wouldn't like to walk around 24 hours a day like they're on a little bit of morphine?
Well, maybe
Who wouldn't?
Clearly, those people that are happy all the time are heavily medicated then. Or
That's what
maybe
I
they
said.
just have natural, what would it
yeah.
be, serotonin or whatever? Like
Yeah,
just
they got super high dopamine levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I don't think so.
maybe. Probably not.
No, I don't think so. So I said, I think most of those people are full of shit.
They're
in
really
this
good
country.
actors, though. Do you think they get in
They're
their
all fucking
car and
crying
say,
on the
like,
inside.
I was going to say, do you think they get in their car and they, like, just cry or say the F word a lot?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I know that I had this guy that I worked with. You know who I'm talking about. And he was Mr. Blow Smoke Up Your Ass, sunshine all the time, and rainbows and lollipops and unicorns.
Mm-hmm.
And just a fucking liar. Just a straight the fuck up liar. Lying to himself, lying to those around him. People just believing all of it and drinking his fucking Kool-Aid, except for me. I didn't drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
But I'm like, dude, you're so full of shit.
He probably went
But
home
you're
and cried.
believing yourself. So I guess there's a little bit
you
of
can
power of
fake
the
it till you
positive
make
that you
it.
can believe
Yeah.
a little bit in yourself that everything is great. And everything is awesome, just like the Lego movie.
Everything is awesome.
No.
No?
So when I think about comedy, I don't think I could be positive.
You would be laughing at yourself the whole time.
Yeah, and maybe being self-deprecating is taking an easy way out. So I think that it might be easier just to insult everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the comics already insult themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So why can't I just say, yeah, you know what? I suck, but let's focus on you and how much you suck as a general populace, period.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's true. I'm just kind of tired of it. Tired of everybody sucking. I don't know what it would be like if I woke up one day and everybody didn't suck. It just seems like they do.
It would be like a weird dream world.
Yeah. Well, and everybody sucks even more now.
People
because
are so
nobody gives a.
self-centered.
We already knew that nobody gave a fuck about anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's even more obvious that nobody gives a shit about each other.
Right.
Nobody gives a shit if they endanger other people. Nobody gives a shit about what they say, who they insult.
They don't even give a shit if they're endangering themselves or their fucking families. So.
No, because it's all fake.
Yeah.
Everything's fake. There is no health crisis.
I'd rather eat at a buffet than keep my family safe.
Right.
Fucking for real.
Right. I'd rather go to a wedding with a couple hundred people and sit in close proximity with each other. And it'll be fine because we're outside. Except you're all talking, laughing, and drinking, and joking, and spreading your spit all over the fucking place, and nobody's wearing a mask except one old 80-year-old dude.
Yeah.
No. But again, hey, what do we know? We don't know anything. The coronavirus, the SARS-CoV-2 virus that causes COVID-19, should you contract it, is completely fake. It doesn't exist.
Right. It was made up.
It's all
It's
made
propaganda.
propaganda. It's all made up by the Democratic Party in an elaborate scheme to dethrone, and that is what I meant to say, dethrone Trump, because he thinks he's fucking king.
Yeah.
I was actually worried more about insulting Jerry Seinfeld than President Trump, because I don't really give a shit if I insult President Trump.
I'm pretty sure he's not listening either.
Yeah, he's probably not listening, but maybe there is some sort of a secret spy thing that's all set up that every time somebody insults him, he hears about it.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what I think.
Maybe you can be on his tweet or Twitter.
Here's what
or
that
something.
would be great.
That would be.
If he tweeted about the Slaptail Squad
That
and
would be
said something
awesome, wouldn't it?
derogatory about us. Oh, that'd be fucking great. That would be so awesome. What would my response be? Oh, I don't know, because I don't use Twitter.
Go fuck yourself?
Yeah, go fuck yourself. Hey, guess what? Guess what? Take a page. Take a page from the book of the Beaveman and go fuck yourself. Anyway, since I am no longer a government employee and have not been for a long time, I don't have to worry about that too much. It's still America. I can say what I want.
It's called freedom of speech.
It's called freedom
And if you don't like it, go fuck yourself.
And the Swan is taking a page from the book of the Beaveman also.
Right.
So tell me, what's your plan then? I will be traveling next week when we usually do our podcast recording and releasing thereof. I will be going to the not so great state of Georgia. If we have listeners from Georgia, don't get upset. You know you're not great. To move the boy back to Michigan. That's exciting.
Should be an interesting trip.
It's gonna be a fast trip. It's gonna be get down there,
Load it up, load it up.
load it up, everything that we can load up, or pack it up rather. Load it up early in the morning because we have to sleep, obviously.
Yeah.
Load it up in the morning and get the fuck out of there.
Mm-hmm.
That is the plan. And while that's happening, though, you will be in charge of, even though you're not number one, you will be in charge of the Slaptail
Yeah, maybe
squad.
number 2 should be in charge.
You're not. What are you talking about?
Isn't number 2 the Rons?
No, he's number one.
He's number 1.
Oh, he wanted to be number one.
Wow.
Even though I used to call him number 2, he wanted to be number 1, like Jean-Luc Picard's
Sidekick?
XO on
Yeah.
Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Number 1.
Number 1.
Well, he's so tech savvy.
Oh yes,
he should
oh
be
my
in
gosh,
charge.
the Ron's super tech savvy.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he's aware of what tech savvy means.
Maybe not.
I just imagine him, just totally like tied up in a room by his cell phone. Like, I totally understand this.
Yeah. So what's my plan? My plan is to hopefully be able to set it up, or maybe you could just leave it set up on Friday before you leave so that all I have to do is push go, record, whatever button it is to start. And then I try to be funny, which is probably not going to go well.
Yeah, don't do that.
So I'll try to find some guests to be funny and try not to fuck it up too bad so that I don't have to edit it and then post it. And we'll see how that goes because I'm sure it's going to be an interesting project.
Well, here's what I would do for sure.
Mm-hmm. Set it up before you leave.
Set it up before I leave.
Uh-huh.
You're going to have to do it on Skype
Uh-huh.
because you're probably going to do it with you, I'm assuming.
Well,
Probably.
it would be kind of stupid to do it without
You and the
me.
daughter is what I meant to say.
Mhm,
You and the daughter, and probably with the Rons, maybe with Tremonde. So it might be all 4 of you.
Oh, that would be okay.
Which would be Skype. So all you would have to do is do a Skype call and record the Skype call.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's all you would have to do.
Yeah, I think I can do that part. And then the uploading part?
The uploading part you wouldn't have to do because I'll be home.
Oh, well, see, good. I think I can handle it as long as I just don't delete it.
Now, if you don't have the Rons and Tremonde, then you would have to do it as a garage band with you and the daughter, which would be different. So if you for sure are going to have the Rons and Tremonde, then the Skype call is your easiest way
Well,
to do
then hopefully I can have at least one of the Rons or the Tremonde.
it. And what do you think you're going to talk about?
I have an idea that we should... Well, it depends if I have the Tremonde.
It's just
Or the
Tremonde.
Rons.
You don't have to say the Tremonde.
Well, I
It's just
kind of
Tremonde.
like calling him the Tremonde. I mean, it gives him, like, a status. Like, the Tremonde. Like, the one and
Or
only.
the Tremonde.
The Tremonde. Yeah. Sounds regal. But anyway. No?
No, not so much.
No. Okay. Well,
It's
anyway,
fine,
if
though.
I
It's
have
fine though. It is fine.
well-educated, well-spoken, Tremonde. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think so. Anyway, so if we have the Tremonde, I think I would like to talk about technology and social media type stuff.
Is that because you
As-
love technology?
Yeah, I love
not as much?
technology. No. Because if we have the daughter on, she's pretty well versed in technology or immersed in technology in every aspect of her life and social media.
Is that
Run-
considered technology, or would you say she's versed in pop culture? I don't know that I call it technology.
Pop culture probably, but I mean, she can work her phone better than I can work mine, and the computer too, and the TV and all that stuff. So technology. I mean, don't you think? I mean,
I guess.
but anyway, and how much they use it versus we use it.
You're on your phone constantly.
Not for dumb things. Well,
No, what?
what I
You're
would
not
consider...
you're not on your phone for dumb things. You're
No.
always on your phone.
Uh-huh.
So what? 9 times out of 10, what are you actually doing that you're not doing anything productive? So what if you think you're not on it for dumb things?
Okay, well,
But can you drive and talk through a Bluetooth and attempt to do a podcast at the same time?
I can, and I drive a stick shift, and I can eat while doing it as well.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
It's not recommended, but
Definitely
I
not
can.
recommended. Well, anybody could.
I'm not saying no, yeah, but I can do it well. I mean,
Uh-huh.
can you eat a burger and drive a stick shift?
Yes.
Because I can.
Yeah, so
While talking on your phone?
yeah.
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 I mean, it's not recommended, but
No.
I can do it.
Yeah, I definitely would not do it. But no, I've done it.
Right. Sometimes you have to.
You don't have to.
Well, I mean, if you're like
It's
on
not a have to. You don't really have to.
if you're trying to save time and multitask and be in like places where you need to be on a timeline, you might
yes.
have to. And when your schedule is full, you might have to eat and drive and talk on the phone at the same time.
I don't think there's ever any point in time when I have to talk on the phone while I'm eating and driving. I would rather prioritize the eating and driving than talk on the phone.
Okay.
I'm not important enough where I have to talk on the phone. At no point in my entire life have I been important enough where I had to talk on the phone if I was driving and eating.
Do you remember when, I don't know, this is off topic. Do you remember when we grounded the boy from his car and he had to go to work down the road and he was grounded from his phone? So he had to ride his bike and he was like, well, what happens if I get a flat tire? I'm like, you're like 3 miles from home. Like, well, I don't have my phone. I can't call. Like, that's crazy.
I don't even remember that. This is bad. I'm like, okay, explain the situation because I don't remember this. What are you talking about? Where was he working?
He was working at camp and he got grounded from his car and his phone and computer or whatever it was all from. So technology. And we told him he had to ride his bike there. And he was like, he didn't even know how fast he should or how early he should leave. And I'm like, well, you better leave plenty of time so that you're early or not late to work. Well, what happens if I get a flat tire? So you freaking walk your bike home.
It's so common these days to get a
exactly.
flat tire on your bicycle.
And then, or you walk your bike to work. I mean, or you could just plain old flat out walk to work. It's less than 5 miles. But it was like the end of the world that they're so dependent upon that technology. We didn't even have a freaking phone. Like,
no, it was nice. It was nice when we didn't have phones.
I got so dependent on it. Like, who remembers phone numbers anywhere? I don't remember phone numbers now. No. And GPS, I use it for everything. I can't even like get somewhere without it because I'm reliant upon it. But how'd you get places before? I drove all the way to freaking Indiana when I was in high school by myself without GPS.
Yeah.
But to
Well,
do
we
that
just
now,
used a map.
whew, I don't know. That'd be frightening.
Well, that's the thing is they don't know how to use a map.
They don't know how to use map. And then
don't use map.
what if your cell phone doesn't have service while you're driving and oh my god, your GPS gets messed up?
Yeah.
What do you do then?
That's why you grab a map.
Right. So scary. Times are scary.
Yeah. Well, I was asking. It's funny you bring that up. The other day I was driving with a daughter. I'm like, hey, what road are we on? She didn't know.
But did she know where she was?
Doesn't matter.
Right.
She didn't know the road that we're off of.
Okay, but the boy doesn't know that either. And like you say, go to
Yeah,
G
you should
Avenue.
at least know that road.
You're like, yeah, no, they don't. Nope. Like, you know, the one with the railroad tracks. Well, okay, yeah, there's probably more than one railroad tracks. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and interesting enough, the rails on the railroad track are over 20 feet apart.
They are.
That's a really, really long distance.
It's like
apart.
a double wide trailer.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
No.
So yeah, hopefully I won't fuck it up next week. If I do, sorry guys.
It's very possible that you will not fuck it up. Very possible.
I'm just apologizing in advance in case I do.
I'm sure it'll be fine. The whole goal, anyway, was for me not to have to do it every week.
But nobody else is volunteering. Hello, Slaptail Squad, assemble.
Yeah, what
Come
the fuck?
on.
Are you all scared? You all too scared to do it? You know what else? This is what I was going to bring up, and I forgot, and now I can remember. Now I got it. I was laughing because this is the funny thing. We did a podcast with me, the Rons, Tremonde, and Woody, the Woodman. And Woodman was obviously clearly just sitting in his car.
Mm-hmm.
Not driving.
Not driving.
He was just sitting there. And Ron wanted to do the podcast today because he was like, well, Woody did it. I'm like, he was clearly just sitting in his car in his driveway. And
probably
he even
using
said,
it to be quiet.
And even he said he was sitting in his car in his driveway.
Yeah, using it as a sound booth.
Driving. He was sitting in his car.
Yeah, we want to hear your road noise, frickin' Rons.
Yeah, he was going in and out. What the fuck is wrong with you, Rons? What I find funny, and God bless Rons, because I got to talk about him every time. What I find funny is that he knows we're going to podcast, and he knows what my schedule is, and he knows that the podcast has to be posted no later than the afternoon of Monday.
Mm-hmm.
But yet he hasn't texted me and said, hey, when are we going to podcast? And not to offend anybody.
Here's your invitation, Rons.
But Rons, you don't have a job, man. Text me. You know I'm working.
Like, our texts will come through no matter what time. And if we can't answer them, we'll answer them when we can.
Or, as my number one, coordinate the podcast, bro.
Yeah, number one. I'm not even number one.
Coordinate the podcast, man, and get it scheduled up and get it ready to roll yourself and just get me in there if you need me. Otherwise, you got the con. I don't know what that means. It's from Star Trek. I honestly don't know if they're saying con or com, personally. I don't have any idea. Well, I think I'm going to wrap it up because Swan's not funny. And, no, just kidding.
You can go fuck yourself.
The takeaway message is this.
Go fuck yourself.
I have become the old grumpy doctor that I didn't think I would become.
You are.
And I'm a long way from retirement.
So you should probably take up comedy?
I think that I'm going to have to wear a mask the rest of my career so people can't see my facial expressions.
Even when it's all better, which is probably not going to be a long time if y'all don't wear your fucking masks.
Yeah, I think that I need to realize, and that people need to realize, that your doctor doesn't have to be your buddy.
Nope.
You know what? And they can be a wonderful doctor without being too interested in what's going on in your life. And it's not a social visit anyway. I think that there's a lot of problem with that too, is that people they think that it's a form of socialization, and it's not. It's not a social visit. If you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and say this. If you think that that's what that's for, you're obviously taking way too big of an advantage of your healthcare provider.
Yeah, you need to get your own friends.
Well, you don't have any idea of how many people they see a day and how much time they have to see you and what kind of a drain you're actually putting on them when you're trying to have conversations about life in general, which has nothing to do with your visit. I'm just going to say it. You know what I do with my doctor? I
value
keep
his
him
time
on track.
Yeah.
I keep him on track to keep the visit short so that he can get a move on. Because if I didn't, he would spend 20 minutes with me talking about stupid shit. And then he would be very far behind. So that's how you should be, guys. You're not going to have me getting distracted, but maybe start realizing that your time, you consider your time valuable, but you're not considering your doctor's time as being valuable. And you have to realize that they're seeing a shitload of people. I hate to say it, but it's true. We don't have all the time in the world. Ideally, you know what would be ideal time frame that you could get per patient visit, in my opinion?
20 minutes?
An hour. If you could get an hour with your patient, for one thing, you would only have to see them about every 6 months. Unless they're fairly ill, then you could see them much more often. But if you could see them for an hour, each time you saw them, you would be able to take care of everything that needed to be taken care of, still get all of your charting done, get everything done that needs to be referred, get them all set up for their next visit, and answer any question they ever had under the fucking sun. And you know what? It wouldn't even take an hour.
And you'd probably be more efficient that way too.
Oh, you would, because you would cut
the
down
fuck out.
on... Because right now, literally what healthcare is like, I heard this in a video lecture that somebody did who was an urgent care doctor. And what he said is actually pretty true. He said, let's be honest. Your visit, everybody's goal in a visit is to get that person out of their hair to whoever needs to see them next. Whether that's you, a specialist, or whoever, because that's what healthcare is like. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he said. And what he said is true. ER is there to save you in an emergency or to facilitate testing that has to be done right then, that has to be read right then, in order to either admit you or to say, these studies are all done, there's nothing life-threatening, you can go home, and you can follow up with your primary care doctor. So then you go, you follow up with your primary care doctor, and you look at those studies that were done on that patient, and then you refer them to who they have to go to next. That's what what the whole game is.
It's like an algorithm. Just follow it, people.
Yep. That's the whole game. That's what the whole industry is. And in primary care, it's literally putting out all those fires, taking care of people's chronic conditions until they get to a point with a condition that you don't understand or that is not your specialty. That's why we have specialties. And they're going to somebody else. And then they come back to you. And then they go to somebody else. And then they come back to you. Or it's incremental time block where you're like, if I only have 15 minutes, how much do you think I can get done in 15 minutes if you need a million things done? Guess
much.
what? I do a couple of them, and then I'm going to see you like a month later to get out the rest of them. So it's not, let me go to my doctor and give him 15 complaints that he can't possibly cover in 15 minutes.
Yeah, if you need to see the doctor for 15 complaints, you probably should have seen the doctor 6 months ago.
Yeah. It's all about taking advantage of them. You know what? I have a bunch of complaints. I won't bring them up to my doctor.
No, you pick the two most important ones or whatever your
if I got to see
is
him
for.
again, I'll see him again.
Yeah.
And the smart ones will tell you, I can't possibly cover all these things that you're going to have to make another appointment. Mm-hmm. And which is what they tell you to do. And I will tell you this, in the place that I work at now, that's what they've told me to do also. I'm like, yeah, that's it. But that's not true. Mm-mm. That's what they tell people. Like, yeah, I've never seen that occur. Definitely not where I work now. But if I did that, I don't think the patients would like me. They'd like me even less than they like me now. But whatever.
And you know what they can do then? What can they do?
They can probably go. People in general can go fuck themselves.
Exactly.
All right, well, that's it for me from the Beaveman. Thanking the Swan, member of the Slaptail Squad, for hanging out with me. Would you like to promote anything today? Would you like to promote the great people who've graced us with some excellent clothing for you that has been a great pleasure of me to see you in?
Sun's out, buns out? Is that skies
That's
out,
not the name
thighs
of,
out?
that's
No.
The name of, not the
I know
name
what
of the
those are
company.
those are the little things that are coming from it, huh? Songa Life or Songa Life, however you say it, for my cool bikini, more than one, and silky shorts that are very comfy.
Yeah, so
great material.
We highly recommend Songa Life for you guys to check them out. Buy their products. Veteran-owned business started by a Navy SEAL, I believe. Mm-hmm. And no, they're not giving us any money. And no, we did not get free products from them. But this is what we do at the Slaptail Squad. We like to promote other people. So someday we will also be promoted. Someday I'm going to run into somebody who's like, hey, man, have you ever listened to this podcast? You need to check them out. Yeah. Someday that's going to happen. And when it does, I'll be very
I'll give
happy.
a shout out to them. I like my bikini. I like my silky shorts. And their founder messaged me personally to tell me that my stuff was getting pre-ordered. Like, that's good quality customer service. Very nice.
Yes, it is. And then what we're going to do, I think when the plan is that we are going to, each of us, take a picture of the thighs, and we'll put them on our website. So there'll be a picture of the Beaveman's thighs, the Swan's thighs. You can't do it with the daughter. That's
a little bit not right.
That's not appropriate. Yeah. But the Rons, I can't wait to see a good picture of the Ron's thighs.
I bet they're pasty.
Yeah, they're pasty.
They're blue.
But I recommend getting that. I recommend all the Slaptail members get silkies and have their pictures taken them because that'd be pretty good. Tremonde and the Woodman also.
I think so.
Good to see. All right. And that's it for me, the Beaveman, saying adios, mooch fuckos. Until next time. This time after today, you'll be in the hands
of the Swan.
Of the Swan. Hopefully later on,
it'll be
in
okay.
the Swan.
Yeah, you can be in my hands.
Hi-yo. All right.
All right. Bye.